Beginning with this program, I will be switching the credits and putting the credits that were at the end of the last programs at the beginning, and the credits that were at the beginning of the program at the end. This will give me a chance to play John Brown's Body, that I always like to play in honor of my great-grandfather, William R. McGrain from Winsted, Connecticut, who joined the Civil War underage and was buried at the age of 92 in Winsted with a silver bullet in his leg. His name is inscribed in a Civil War monument in Winsted, Connecticut, and we're all very proud of him. He marched to this song when he was in the Civil War, John Brown's Body. It was later changed by Julia Ward Howe by changing one note. It was changed to the Battle Hymn of the Republic as we know it today. Also, John Brown was from Torrington. When I went to Kansas University to study mathematics, they always told me that John Brown was in Osawatomie, Kansas. He moved there when he was 5 years old from Torrington, Connecticut. They called him Osawatomie John Brown. We'll play John Brown's Body at the end of the program tonight in honor of my Irish great-grandfather. To start with, though, we'll play Home Sweet Home, based upon an old Sicilian air in honor of my Sicilian grandfather, who came to Winsted in early 1900s before moving to Torrington, where Joyce and I were born. Here we go. Home Sweet Home, Winsted, Connecticut. This is Brian O'Haron speaking. This is Make Winsted Great Again, Episode 12. About 2 weeks have passed since our last program, when I told you that I was going to apply to run as a petitioning candidate in the November elections in Winsted, Connecticut for the Board of Selectmen, although I'm only interested in voting as a member of the Board of Finance. Well, I followed through over the last couple weeks, and I applied to set up a new party called Trump Winsted for the elections in November. On the Trump Winsted ticket, I will be, to the best of my knowledge, the only member of the Trump Winsted party running in the next election. Everybody else will run as a Democrat, as a Republican, or one of the other parties that are listed in town. Or, if very brave, as a petitioning candidate. During the last few weeks, I have collected 25 required registered voter signatures and sent them along with other information, forms, etc., to the state of Connecticut in my attempt to set up the Trump Winsted ticket in Winsted and to run on the universal platform that I've been proposing over the months and will continue to do so. We're up through the election in November, hopefully afterward. It turned out that this was not a very easy task because the information collected had to be accurate, and you had to collect a lot more than was needed in order to make sure you had enough to have your application approved at the state level. Most of the information provided had to be signed off by the town clerk and was. We are now sitting back for a few weeks, waiting for the state to adjudicate and tell us whether or not we will have a Trump Winsted party in Winsted, Connecticut for the coming election in November. Personally, I'm thinking very positive about all this because everybody I saw as I was traveling the town trying to obtain signatures was very excited about the opportunity that might present itself. One platform for all the parties to work on, that's got to be a first. I don't know of anywhere where that's ever happened before. Usually it's one party against the other, against somebody else, against the unaffiliated, against the independent party, against the Democratic Party or Republican Party. It's usually everybody having a different idea, but saying that they will work together once elected. Well, my universal platform has been out there, spread around the world on the internet for weeks now, and so far I haven't seen a platform from anyone else. But we will change our platform if necessary, if good ideas come back, good feedback comes back, or if events change between now and the election. For example, if we get hit hard by the state saying they're not going to pay us a few $1 million that we were expecting, something like that. But it'll all be on the programs between now and the election. We try to keep you posted and up to date. Sooner or later, the other parties will be getting on to the local channel, Channel 191, presenting their points of view and trying to sell you on electing them in November, perhaps on a totally different platform than the one I'm presenting. So you, the voter, will get a chance to compare platforms, compare presenters, compare the information that will be disseminated through the newspapers, through TV, on the internet, throughout Winsted and the surrounding area. I do want to try to get my program up in Torrington as well, because a lot of the people in Winsted, including Joyce and I, have relatives in Torrington. A lot of the people in Torrington have relatives in Winsted. You see that from my opening credits and my ending credits. It's a small world. I also want to remind you that most people on Highland Lake and Winchester from the city of Winsted want to leave. They want to go south. They don't want to have to pay the taxes. They don't want to have to pay the death duties. They don't want to have to pay the winter costs, etc., etc. So many residents are leaving in the wintertime for the South, or for New Jersey or New York or Boston or wherever they come from, towns and maybe even countries. Anybody who owns property can vote for the budget or any non-emergency budgetary type voting, and they can do that by absentee ballot, so they don't have to come back for that unless they want to. But when it comes to selectmen, finance board, board of education, town clerk, and all these other positions that are running in November, they can't vote for those. So what I'm trying to do is educate them in their faraway places so they can educate their relatives, friends, neighbors, etc. in Winsted. Let them know how they would like to see them vote. The purpose of this effort, and that's why it's only one person in the Trump-Winsted party running for office, is to try to unite the parties. Even though they might not agree with each other on certain issues, they can still speak their piece. They can still tell it like it is. But if they're all working towards the correct things that are needed to be done to make Winsted great again, and are part of this universal platform that I've put together with the help of a lot of other people, mainly MBAs in this area, that have been very successful in school and very successful in business, and some of them very successful in helping the town now and in the past. There's a lot of good information here. How to get things done. Planning for success and getting things done to make Winsted great again. So that's what this is all about. This is to try to get everybody in the town of Winchester, and especially in the city of Winsted, working together to try to make Winsted great again. I like to tell people that Winsted was made by water. Water all over the place. Rivers, lakes, dams. And now the water is killing the town because everybody wants to make it like Norfolk, Litchfield, Great Barrington, Goshen, which is not going to really happen. We all know that. But that's because we have the lake. And all the old farms that were out there in the town of Winchester, they're gone now. It's all becoming more development. There's some camps around and things like that. That's all good. But anyway, that's what's happening. All the changes in the environment around the country and around the world and in our state, the internet, the loss of the factories, the loss of the stores, the loss of people, the loss of the jobs, the loss of the churches. It goes on and on. They're all hurting us in this whole Rust Belt area pretty bad. And it's very expensive to update everything because it was all built for horses and carriages in the old days. And now it has to be built for modern traffic, communication, and ways of life. Life changes. Changes rapidly, especially in old Rust Belt towns and cities. And that's what my participation, if I win the election, and if I don't, that's okay too. I'm just about 80 years old and got plenty of other things to do. Other people asking for help all over the world. I have to deal with them as well. And hopefully, soon, the existence of a uniting force for all the parties in Winsted, all the voters in Winsted, all the leaders of Winsted, with the emergence of the Trump-Winsted party, and even perhaps a member of the finance board that knows something about finance. Not an expert like others, but the best one running, I believe, in the November election. If our hopes and plans come to fruition. Remember, it's one of my desires that we plan for a new town manager when the existing town manager leaves office for one reason or another somewhere along the way. We've got to plan for that. We've got to get another town manager that's just as good. And we have to give the new town manager the support that we're giving the current town manager. We can give him a lot more support than we're giving him, and that's our intention. We need to all work together to make Winsted great again. And now with this town manager and his very good financial team, we need to work on the platform that I am presenting, the universal platform for making Winsted great again. And we have to reach much higher. You'll notice on this platform, although they're trying hard now to work together, they're in the weeds, in my view. They're doing some small things that are taking us in the right direction, but we need to reach much higher. So look at the platform, listen to all the programs where we talk about it, ask questions of all the candidates when they run, but we need to do bigger and greater things. A lot of small things is a good idea, not against it, but we really need to do some big things. The tie for number one on the planks of this platform couldn't be greater. We must get those two issues resolved, and it'll take 15 or 20 years to do it. It's not going to happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight in business, and nothing happens overnight when you're running a town like a business. Once we get to that stage. Remember now, I've always told you that my engineers, some of the best in the world, from all kinds of countries and school backgrounds, university backgrounds, business backgrounds, always told me, Brian, don't believe them when they say rocks fall up. Rocks don't fall up. Rocks fall down. So when they're trying to tell you that rocks fall up, don't believe them. Rocks don't fall up, they fall down. We must pay attention to the platform and its planks, and we must deal with all the major issues in parallel from week to week, day to day, month to month, year to year, over the next 10 to 20 years. So working to resolve these platform issues is number one priority. And sometimes we won't get along with each other while we're trying to achieve it. But someday we'll look back on our success and we'll say that was all worth it. We're glad we did it. Just like people call me from all over the world to resolve these platform issues is number one priority. And sometimes we won't get along with each other while we're trying to achieve it. But someday we'll look back on our success, if we are successful, and we'll say that was all worth it. We're glad we did it. Just like people call me from all over the world, thanking me for work we did 25 to 40 years ago that they didn't appreciate at the time. You're now in that position. So if you see a little scuffle, as long as people are courteous and not demeaning to each other, we might be able to make Winsted great again. Now, I've talked quite a bit here about what's happening over the last week or two. But last week I promised you that I would talk about the way that we should conduct ourselves as selectmen, finance board members, town clerk, board of education, and all the other elected offices in our town. Some of these are not just volunteer positions, because they get paid a small stipend to be a selectman, or for at least, I'm not sure about the Board of Education, but they get a little bit of money. Not many of them give it away, donate it to various good causes, which I will do, as I've said before. That they may have a few skirmishes with me, because I'll tell them that rocks don't fall up, they fall down. We must pay attention to the platform and its planks, and we must deal with all the major issues in parallel from week to week, day to day, month to month, year to year, over the next 10 to 20 years. Now, as promised, I want to get on to some of the qualities that I think everybody should have when they serve as a selectman / finance board member, or a Board of Education member, or a member of P&Z, or EDC, or any of the other very important commissions and committees that we have in our town and city. The first one I'd like to mention, promise number 1, is to follow the state statutes at all times and make sure they are interpreted properly with advice from the town attorney or anyone else, consultants, whoever we need, to make sure that we're always in contact with the state statutes and any changes made along the way. Now, I have plenty of people in town who do keep up with the state statutes. They know how to get a hold of them at the state, and they send me information, as you know, from my programs. When a state statute won't allow a certain thing we want to do, or where a change is needed to the state statutes to be able to do certain things that we want to do. So everybody must do the same thing. We need to really follow those state statutes and try to get them changed, as you see in our platform, our general purpose platform, designed for all parties and candidates to run on in the November election. Now, many people won't bother to do that for a lot of reasons. First one is they don't want to have to say anything that they might have to commit to and perhaps can't achieve. It might have hurt them in the next election. They're very touchy about that. That's where politics and running like a business, where the rubber meets the road. Promise number 2 is that I will follow the town charter and try to get it changed when necessary. But we must always follow the town charter. We have many experiences over the last 10 years or so when many people think they have not always followed the charter. We leave it up to the people in the town to sue us, sue the town. Nobody wants to do that because they don't want to spend the money to do it. Long drawn out process, and they don't want to do that. We must follow the charter at all times, get the good advice from our attorney and the other consultants, or get it changed to meet our needs. Promise number 3, and very important, like the first 2, we're often accused of not practicing complete transparency at the schools and the town, especially in the budgets. We must do that. Everything must be transparent to the voters in our form of government, and they should be able to question anything. If they have the answers and we're transparent, that might limit some of the FOI, Freedom of Information Act type questions. But it's very important that we're very transparent, like we have to be with our doctors and our lawyers and our Indian chiefs. That'll help a lot. That'll get rid of a lot of the confusion, a lot of the misunderstandings, a lot of the misinformation, a lot of the doubt, and a lot of the lack of trust between the town leaders that are in office and elected to office and the town leaders that are in the opposition of one sort or another and are not in power at this particular time or any particular time in the government. But they're still interested. They still want to know. They still want to ask questions. They still want things to be balanced. That'll never go away. The more you can be transparent, the less of that there'll be. If elected in November, my promise number 4 will be to encourage others to listen to the public. The town manager, Robert Geiger, just had many town employees attend a 4-hour session on how to deal with customers of the town, most of whom are citizens, taxpayers, residents, etc. One person came out of the meeting, and I asked him, what did they talk about in this meeting? And he said they talked about how to deal with customers. And the first thing they said was you have to listen to the customers. You have to listen. You can't shout back at them. You can't dismiss them. You can't say you're too busy. You can always arrange another time to talk to them, but you have to be gentle. You have to listen. Around the lake or the town, I usually have to listen for 45 minutes or so. The potential petition signers' queries, problems, suggested solutions, etc., etc. It takes a long time to get petitions signed around the lake and the town. Another very important promise is that if elected, I will deal with the big issues in parallel from meeting to meeting, not just the small issues, avoiding the big issues like revenue, like the budget, and other large issues from week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, and year to year. It's very important to get all these issues out on the table. For many years I've been asking them to put revenue as the increase in revenue as the top priority on every agenda of the Finance Board / Board of Selectmen. They don't do it. I'd also like to see them review the budget the same way. Every time. Where do we stand against the budget? Especially from month to month and quarter to quarter. Very important. Where do we stand in growing the grant list from week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year? Where do we stand on reducing the costs from week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, and year to year? Where are our plans? What actions are we taking? How are we doing? Are we doing better or are we doing worse? Are we heading in the right direction or are we headed in the wrong direction? Are we taking actions fast enough or are we too slow in taking actions to get back on track? It's all that kind of thing. Some of this we do now, of course, but nowhere near enough, especially on the big issues. The big issues. The very big issues. We spend too much time on the small issues. Over the past 15 years, I have witnessed the town lose the trust of the taxpayers for all the reasons mentioned in this program. We need to regain that trust. If we do the things on the platform, and if we do the things that I'm promising here, the promises I'm making, we should be able to begin to regain the trust of the taxpayers. But it will take everything. It will take all the platform planks and all the promises, and it will take electing well-qualified people, especially in the financial area, to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education. So please do that. To help the town regain trust of everyone in the town, city, and area. Very important to regain the trust so that we can get more businesses to town. We can grow the grand list. We can reduce the budget in the school system. It goes on and on. When bond payments are about to expire, I will let everybody know that they're about to expire so they can take it into consideration when presenting and voting for future budgets. I believe we've been a bit lax here in that when bond payments expire that were made for a specific purpose, like building a bridge or anything like that, then the money should not be spent on anything else in future budgets without the public being aware, being notified, and approving the future expenses. That's a must. There's a lot of concern about that. The concern is always, well, if we don't spend the money, we won't get it again, blah, blah, blah. So it's very important to let everybody know when budgets are about to expire so they can plan for success. Over the years, I have always been an advocate of having a taxpayers association because I believe that is a good check and balance on the main leaders of the town. It helps to get transparency. It helps to get information. It helps to distribute information. It was set up by a very good bunch of people, many of them now deceased. There are still active members of the association. They always need money. They always need money, especially in bad times when they have to encourage people to vote against budget increases. So I promise that I'll donate my stipend each year while in office to the Taxpayers Association and encourage other people to do the same as I have ever since I've been retired here in 2002. This is very important. Promise number 10. I promise that I will vote on every financial issue if elected. I will try to get the facts out into the open, distribute them widely, make them available to all, including the press, and get input from all the voters, feedback. That's called management by objectives and management by exception. The objective is to say that I will promise to vote on every financial issue. Management by exception is saying that I will listen to all input before I make any decision. And I will try to produce balanced financial future wherever practical. There may be more platform planks and promises prior to the election in November. And now I want to get to one of the biggest things that I'm promising before this election. I'm asking everybody not to vote for me if they don't agree with the contents of this platform and its planks and the promises that I'm making. Don't vote for me if you don't agree with me. Vote for the people that are running that also agree with the planks in the platform and the promises that I'm making. They might even have a few of their own in addition. Vote for them too. And if you do that, we probably can win. Now, I said this before, I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it a lot before November. When Donald Trump ran for election in our area, he got approximately 1.6 votes compared to every one vote for Hillary Clinton. I would like to see the same thing happen during this election. You should vote for people who agree with this platform, with some few additions or subtractions, and these types of promises with some additions or perhaps some exceptions. I'll point those out along the way once all the candidates are announced and they talk about their own platforms and what they're going to do once they're elected. I'll try to help you decide by giving you my point of view on all that. So if we can do that, we can probably ride on the coattails of the president and get elected in Winsted to try to help make Winsted great again. It'll take a big effort. I'm not going to spend very much money on the campaign. If I spend less than $1,000, I won't have to have a secretary. I won't have to have a financial advisor. I can spend my own money as long as I disclose it and keep track of it. Up to $1,000. That should be plenty. If it takes more than $1,000 to win an election like this, then it's not worth it. People throw all kinds of money at these elections. They throw all kinds of money at it. But in this case, you shouldn't have to do that. You got to contact all the people that voted for Donald Trump in the election that you know, and ask them to do the same thing. Contact everybody they know. I'll produce a few signs. I'll produce a few car stickers. I'll write letters to the newspapers. I'll attend any debates that they have for candidates. I'll do a lot of that kind of thing to try to get the information out. I do send emails too. If people give me their email address, I send them links to these programs. I send them other information about the town, minutes of the P&Z meetings and things like that. But I try to concentrate again on things that will help us financially. Help us financially. I don't think I'll pay too much attention, as I said before, to who makes what waste bags get moved in town hall and other selectmen issues like that. I consider those to be minor issues compared to the financial problems we face and will face for another 5 to 15 years. Now, let's just say 15 years. Well, in 15 years, I'll be 95. Bob Geiger will be roughly 89. I don't think either of us will be around. Might be still alive in other towns and cities and states. But we won't be very active here. So that's why I'm asking everybody to vote for this platform and these promises so that we can prepare for Bob Geiger's, the current town manager, departure eventually. And that's inevitable. That's inevitable. We tend to only keep town managers for an average of 2.5 years or so over many, many, many years. And then we usually get the opposite of what we had before, with the opposite philosophy. That's happened this time when we changed our town managers. We had a person for 5 years that helped disclose a lot of problems, but didn't really have much of a plan for success. So we have to keep working at it. We got to keep spreading the word, as Donald Trump would say. We got to keep thinking big, as Donald Trump would say. And then we got to try to get things done. Now, as you know, Donald Trump had a very good platform. He had many planks in it that most people still agree with. Making sure people are properly vetted before they come into the country and perhaps even have a job guaranteed like my grandfather did. He wants to bring factories and businesses back into America from Mexico and other places, China and all. We want to do the same in Winsted. He wants to provide jobs for the people in America. We want to do the same in Winsted. He wants to bring money that's parked around the world back into America so they can collect taxes on it. We want to do the same in Winsted. Perhaps in a few more weeks or next month sometime, closer to the election, I'll compare my universal platform, its planks, and my promises to Donald Trump's platform, individual planks, and his promises before he got elected. We can also look at the comparisons of Donald Trump's promises over the last year or so by November, because he was elected in November, even though he didn't start till January. We can get a pretty good feel for his progress. Now remember, this is politics, and like business, doesn't get done overnight. That's why they allow him 4 years and a chance to come for another 4 years. So he'll be in there for almost 8 years, and to complete, maybe, and to complete his target, we need to then vote for another person who will carry on with his platform, promises, planks, etc. Won't be exactly the same. Hopefully we've made a lot of progress by then. The biggest thing that he's going to do for all of us, and it's already showing up in the stock market, it's already showing up around Winsted, especially on the lake, he's going to cut taxes. He's going to do like John Kennedy did, and he's going to do like Reagan did. There's one Democrat, there's one Republican. Others have also cut taxes along the way, regardless of their party. So we're going to have to get somebody in that will keep the taxes down. I also like his Supreme Court choices so far. They've been pretty good. The right kind of people. Grow the grant list type people are going to be assigned, hopefully, to the Supreme Court. That might help us. Let's see what happens. Now, of course, as I keep saying, we got to do the same in Winsted. We got to prepare for 5 to 15 or 20 years. Get people onto the boards and commissions. That'll be a killer if we don't do that. They're the biggest hindrance right now to our growth. And most businessmen feel that way that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of businessmen, economic type people, that have to earn $1 before they spend $1. Remember, John Wan never missed a payroll in 36 years. He always made the payroll. He might have had to borrow some money. He might have had to take from his savings accounts. But to run his business, Super Saver, he had to meet his payroll. To get good employees and keep good employees, he had to meet his payroll. To feed his own family and provide them with the necessities they needed, he had to meet his payroll. So anyway, I kind of use John Dewan examples right now because they're fresh in everybody's minds. I just went down to Staples the other day to make a few copies because Winsted libraries were closed, and the one shop downtown that does copies for people like me couldn't copy onto the same size paper. So I went down to Torrington. I had the copies made, put on my thumb drive, then drove all the way back. Pretty sad. Pretty sad. So anyway, you're going to have to think hard now. You're going to have to spread the word. Think big. Get all the people that voted for Donald Trump to vote for the Trump Winsted ticket, and anybody else running for office outside or inside of a party, major party, that agrees with our platform and our promises. Now, often they will say they do when they don't, because they're controlled by their town committees. And if they don't follow the town committee party line, they might not get elected again. They might get thrown out of the party when the big party vote comes every so many years to choose people for the town committee. The town committees now, in my opinion, are leaning to the left a lot. Really leaning to the left. I don't think either of them was in favor of Donald Trump. Some people in the party were, but they weren't in control. They weren't in the majority. And those people, some of them, stepped out of those parties. They're still in the party on paper, but they don't really want to go to the town committee meetings anymore. Party town committee meetings. They don't really want to participate. They're concentrating more on getting out of the town, cashing in any assets they earned, saved for over many years, took a lot of risk to obtain, and they want to go. They want to move on. They want to go somewhere else. Most people who stay here because of their grandchildren and their children and their extended family. I get that all the time when I ask people, why do you stay here if you can't afford it here? Well, my wife doesn't want to leave. We have extended family, grandmothers, cousins, uncles and aunts, grandfathers. We stay and we put up with it, even though it's a tough financial situation for all of us. Now you understand, Brian, you understand. Many people have stopped me with their wife on the road, on the street downtown, and over the years and said, Brian, I can't afford to live here anymore. Some of these people were pretty prominent people in town at one time. They can't afford to live here anymore when they retire. And a lot of them, despite the fact that they have extended family and deep roots in our community, feel that they have to move on. Nowadays, when kids graduate from college and they're not doctors or lawyers or Indian chiefs, they have to go where the jobs are. Now, I did that from Torrington because I didn't want to work in the factories like my dad and my father-in-law and my mother and my mother-in-law. I wanted to climb the ladder of success. So I got into the computer industry, lived in 10 different cities and towns, some of them twice, 4 countries, some twice, traveled behind the Iron Curtain, traveled into all the socialistic countries in the world, traveled all over the place, seen a lot. And those were in the days when traveling was difficult, very difficult. I even started when there were not many jet planes. So anyway, I'm going to have to move on now because I'm running out of time. You're going to see now the new portion, my scroll. But before we get to that, I do want to thank Joseph Firecrow, who passed away recently, for all he donated to the community of his time, energy, musical capabilities. Thanks to Joseph Firecrow. Thanks to Joseph Firecrow. Now, in honor of Civil War veteran William R. McGreen, my great-grandfather, who was born in and died in Winsted, entered the Civil War underage and was buried at the age of 92 with a Confederate silver bullet remaining in his leg. John Brown's body, later to become the battle hymn of the Republic. To see him here with his family on his 50th wedding anniversary on Pratt Street in Winsted, Connecticut. My grandfather and my young father are in the picture along with the rest of his family. I'm told the oranges meant the 50th anniversary for a family from Dublin, Ireland. Thank you for sticking it out. For those of you who did tonight, I know it isn't easy, but I'll see you again soon as we get closer and closer to making Winsted great again by voting properly in the November election and hopefully getting most of the candidates to agree to stick to the universal platform and planks that I have put together and received feedback on from many, many people around town and the state. Good night, Brian O'Haron. Please help to make Winsted great again in the November election.